Well, here we are. Thoughts from the office. Redneck's Pride Outdoors. I haven't done a video in a little bit of time, and I'm heading out to check a predator control job where goats are getting killed. Got a few minutes drive I gotta do, and I just, as always, I'm thinking things through and dwelling back on the trapping. State trapping course we just had this past weekend, and the folks who's calling in orders right now and asking for products and deer season and all this stuff. One of my thoughts, if you will, went to why we struggle. Deer hunting, trapping, fishing, whatever it is. I apologize for the sun. It's going to be going in and out, hands free. And again, I think, why is it we struggle? What made me struggle? And I still struggle every day. In wildlife control, ADC, I struggle every day. You never get to where you're on top of the world unless you're only doing a couple little things. But when you've got a lot of different scenarios thrown at you, you're going to struggle every day. I don't care how good you are. I'm over 50 years as a trapper, over 45 years as ADC. Deer hunter. I started really hunting deer probably the mid-70s. At about 14, but I can really hunt by myself, and I'll be the first one to tell you I sucked at it. I probably didn't kill my first deer until I was, I don't know, 17, 18 years old. 4 years, I guess it was. It took me to kill a deer. Yet I was catching fox like it was going out of style. Why do we struggle? And I think one of the biggest reasons for that, I know for me, is we try to learn how to hunt, trap while we're hunting or trapping. In other words, I had to teach myself how to deer hunt. My grandfather helped me. Okay, but you understand what I'm saying. I had to learn how to deer hunt while I was trying to kill a deer. And I can remember the frustration after frustration after frustration of goof up after goof up after goof up. I could find deer. That wasn't my problem. I couldn't kill them. Or, I was buck hunting and not allowed to shoot a doe, and the does would come in. And I'd get frustrated because there's only does and wasn't seeing a buck, and trying to kill a buck brought bad habits into me. And now, many years later, I realize that if I had only paid attention to the does, and instead of getting frustrated because a buck wasn't coming in, studying and watching the doe, that I would have become a better deer hunter faster. I started making baits and lures in 1987. Well, let me rephrase that. I started trying to make baits and lures for the trapping world and ADC world way before that, in the early 80s, but it wasn't until 1987 that I was able to come out with my first couple baits and lures. In 1990 is when we started making our deer scents, and I started making our deer scents to prove. I started experimenting making deer scents to prove that deer scents didn't work, because by 1990 I was a pretty good deer hunter at that point. I had figured it out, and I was able to start killing bucks, and good bucks, and I was obsessed with bucks. And deer sense wasn't working for me, because the way I learned how to kill bucks was out of being an invisible hunter. You never hunted a stand without the wind in the absolute direction. You knew everything you needed to know about them, and that's good. You need to do that. You need to do that, whether you're using deer sense or not. Deer sense only work if you know how to kill deer. If you're trying to use a deer scent, you're spitting in the wind. But going back to it, I proved that deer scents did work, and how I proved it was this: in the off season, and I'm talking about the whole off season. From when the season stopped till it began again in the fall, once a week, I was in a tree stand for an hour or two, watching deer react to the deer scents that I was making or trying to make. Boy, I tell you, it was rough. June, July, August. Whew. To this day, I cannot stand sitting in a tree stand. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. But anyway, getting back on the regular trail and off the rabbit trail. How I really learned how to kill deer, or really learned how to hunt, was watching deer without trying to kill them. I saw behavior. I saw body behavior. I saw reaction. I saw deer coming in, deer having no idea I was there, and leaving easy and content. And I saw deer coming in and getting a whiff of me or seeing me or whatever, knowing I was there, and take off like a rocket ship. Or deer sensed that I was there but couldn't figure out where or whatever. That's how I figured out what cover scents do. That's why when I do my talks on cover scents, I have a different opinion. Cover scent does not take away human odor. It creates an illusion. And I won't bore you on this video on that, but it creates illusion that the deer is saying, are they here or are they not, or are they gone? And I'm just picking up the traces of them from before. So in a nutshell, going back to my original thought, why do we have such a hard time with this stuff? The answer is, every one of us try to learn to do whatever we're doing, trapping, hunting, fishing, you got to. But trapping and hunting, we try to learn how to do it with the pressure of taking the animal, trying to learn. And we get there eventually. We really do. Problem is when we see something when we're trying to learn and something works and then it works a second and a third time, most of us stop trying to learn. And that's what we do. We fall into that absolute perfection. Have to do it this way, exactly this way, all the time this way. And the truth of the matter is, and I do it too, and especially in the wildlife control, I get into these ruts. I see, and I get into these moods where I have to do it this way. It's got to be A, B, C, D. Then God will bring an animal around that shows me that sometimes it's A, Z, W. 1, 8, 10, not 1, 2, 3. And 2 plus 2 is 98, not 4. We find what works, and because we are so keyed in on absolute success, we stop learning. And it's rough. You're out trying to hunt that deer. You're out there trying to call in predators. You're out there rabbit hunting or whatever. You're out there trapping. Our goal is to catch or shoot or harvest critters. So how do we learn without that pressure? And it's unbelievable. You've heard me say it many, many times. It's amazing what a person will learn when they're not trying to kill something. I trap all year long. I just don't use a trap. I hunt all year long. I just don't use a bow or gun. All year long. I'm kind of blessed in that my test sites, my scent test sites or bait test sites, gives me a desire to be out there, and I'm being paid. Let's face it, that's my job. My job is to be out there figuring this stuff out, to learn all this stuff. God's kind of blessed me at that. Okay, my 9 to 5 is either catching critters or testing scents or testing baits or experimenting, coming up with new ideas and new methods and new whatever. So I thank God for that. He has really blessed me for all these years I'll be 65 in November, and God's really blessed me, and I thank Him for that. He's blessed me with a good wife that understands all this stuff too. And she's not a hindrance to me. She jumps on board with me. So how do we learn this stuff without the pressure of success? But the success different than killing an animal, which means you get out there in the off season. Yeah, you're going to get tigers and chiggers and ticks. Tigers. It's a new species. Sometimes those chiggers feel like tigers. You get out there in the off season and you just learn. If you're using a call that critter. Let him come right up to your feet. That's exciting anyway, by the way. I remember one time I was calling predators, and in the springtime it was, and I was sitting behind these little saplings about that big, a whole bunch of little ones. And I was calling predators with one of my mouth calls, and a doe stepped out about 100 yards across the field. And I'm now I'm wanting to play with the doe. I want to see how she's going to react to the predator call. And I tell you what, she come flying across that field, right up to within about 5-6 feet of me. And her hair was standing up on her back like a dog, stomping and snorting. And those little saplings wasn't big enough for me at that point. I said, oh crap, I want to get my butt in trouble here. That taught me how to call deer, or started me on learning how to call deer now, September, early part of October, late season, mid December to the end of our season. Deer can be called, but you got to get out there and you got to do it. Well, I just pulled up on that complaint job, and hope there's not another dead goat out here. I hope it's not. So, as typical fashion, I'll leave it here. Redneck's Pride Outdoors, thoughts from the office. I'll talk to you later.